Picture a leader who just got promoted. VIP title, corner office, 40% salary increase. Everyone is congratulating. And all they can think is, when will they realize they made a mistake? Or consider the executive who's been leading teams for 15 years. They're preparing for a board presentation, their 10th this year. Yet they're awake at 3 a.m. in the morning thinking, what if they ask a question I can't answer? What if this moment they see through me? If this sounds familiar, you're experiencing what leaders face: imposter syndrome. And here's what nobody is telling you: this feeling doesn't mean what you think it means. Let me paint a picture of how this actually shows up. Imagine a newly promoted manager preparing for their first leadership team meeting. They've done the work, they know the data. But as they walk into that conference room, their internal monologue sounds like, everyone here has more experience than me. They're going to ask me questions I haven't thought of. The CFO is going to see right through my financial analysis. I shouldn't have accepted this position. I'm not ready. I'm going to embarrass myself. Now, here's what makes imposter syndrome so insidious. The feeling intensifies with success, not failure. When you accomplish something, you attribute it to luck, timing, or other people. You think, I fooled them this time. The stakes feel higher for the next challenge. You work even harder to prove yourself. You achieve more success, which triggers even more doubt. Consider the director who lands a major client. Instead of celebrating, they immediately think, now I have to deliver perfectly, or they'll regret choosing me. I just set myself up for a spectacular failure. Or picture the executive who receives glowing feedback from their team. Their response? They're just being nice. If they only knew how much I was struggling internally, they wouldn't respect me. This is the exhausting reality. You're fighting a war with your own competence. Here's what I learned from 25 years of working with leaders at every level. Imposter syndrome isn't a bug in your psychology. It's a feature of your growth. Let me show you what I mean. Think about the last time you felt completely confident. No doubt, no anxiety, total proficiency. What were you doing? You're probably doing something you've done 100 times before. Something well within your comfort zone. Something that required no growth. Now think about when you felt like an imposter. You are likely taking on a new challenge, operating at a higher level, doing something you've never done before, pushing the boundaries of your capabilities. This is the insight that changes everything. The presence of imposter syndrome is evidence that you are in your growth zone. Your brain is wired for survival, not growth. When you step into the unknown, your primitive brain interprets it as danger. It screams, you don't know how to do this. Go back to safety. But here's the truth your brain doesn't understand. Unknown doesn't mean unqualified. Consider two leaders. Leader A never feels like an imposter. Why? Because they stopped growing 5 years ago. They're repeating the same strategies, managing the same types of teams, playing it safe. They feel confident because they've eliminated all the risk. Leader B regularly feels like an imposter. Why? Because they continuously step into new challenges. They're learning, evolving, and expanding their capacity. They feel uncertain because they're doing things they haven't mastered yet. Which leader is actually more competent? This brings us to the core principle of my framework for connected leadership. Know your worth. Know your worth as a leader is not determined by how confident you feel. It's not measured by the absence of doubt. Your worth is intrinsic. It exists independent of your current emotional state or performance outcome. The leader who feels like an imposter isn't less valuable than the leader who feels confident. In fact, they're often more valuable because they're humble enough to keep learning, aware enough to recognize their growth edges, and brave enough to keep moving forward despite the fear. So how do we work with imposter syndrome instead of against it? This is where the receive, perceive, respond method becomes your daily tool. Let me walk you through a scenario. Imagine you're about to present a strategic recommendation to the executive team. That familiar wave of panic hits. What if they think my idea is stupid? What if I can't answer their questions? What if this exposes how little I actually know? Here's how most leaders respond. The reactive pattern, they either over-prepare to the point of exhaustion, trying to anticipate every possible question, I've been there. Or they avoid the presentation altogether by delegating it or needing more data. Both responses are driven by the belief that the feeling of inadequacy is true. This is where the RPR method becomes your friend. Receive. Take 10 seconds. I'm receiving the feeling of panic. My heart is racing. My mind is generating worst case scenarios. I'm noticing the story that I'm not qualified for this moment. Just naming it creates distance between you and the feeling. You're not the panic. You're the person observing the panic. Take 20 seconds and acknowledge. I'm perceiving this as my brain's survival response to uncertainty. This feeling doesn't mean I'm unqualified. It means I care about the outcome. I'm also perceiving that I've been asked to present because someone sees value in my perspective. The invitation itself is evidence of my credibility. Respond. Choose with intention. Instead of over-preparing or avoiding, you respond with, I will prepare thoroughly. Not perfectly. I will focus my prep on the 3 most critical points, and when I walk into that room, I will anchor in my intrinsic worth, not my emotional state. Notice the difference. Reacting from fear, I need to know everything or they'll see I'm a fraud. Responding from worth, I know enough to add value and I'm secure enough to say, I don't know when that's true. Here's your practice for this week, the morning anchor. Before you check your phone, place your hand on your heart and say out loud, my worth is not determined by my performance today. I am valuable because I am. The feeling of doubt is evidence that I'm growing. Say it even if, especially if you don't believe it yet. The activation journal. When imposter syndrome hits this week, write down, number 1, what activated it? Was it a new challenge, comparison, or criticism? Number 2, the story your brain is telling. Is it, I'm not qualified, or they'll find out? 3, evidence that contradicts that story. How you got this role, past successes, and the skills that you possess. Then you want to lean into the reframe question. Every time you think, I don't know what I'm doing, immediately ask, what if this discomfort means I'm exactly where I need to be to grow? Here's what I need you to understand. That knot in your stomach before the big meeting, that voice saying you're not ready, that feeling of being a fraud, it's not a stop sign. It's a mile marker. It's telling you that you're on the path of growth, not stuck in comfort mediocrity. The most successful leaders that I've worked with across 4 continents don't lack imposter syndrome. They just learn to interpret it correctly. So the next time you feel like a fraud, try this response. Thank you, brain, for trying to keep me safe, but I'm not in danger. I'm in my growth zone, and that's exactly where I need to be. Do me a favor and drop a comment below. What's your biggest imposter syndrome activator? When do you feel like a fraud? Let's normalize this conversation. And if this shifted something for you, hit save. The algorithm listens to that more than likes, and it tells me that you want more of this content. Next episode, we are dismantling the lies your inner critic tells you and giving you the RPR method to fight back. You're not going to want to miss this. Your worth is intrinsic. Your doubt is evidence of growth. You're exactly where you need to be.